You've likely heard of natural selection, which is often described as the survival of the fittest. This is a bit of a misnomer because in evolution, individual organisms don't willfully adapt to their environment. Rather, environmental stressors lead to the selection of specific traits among individuals within a population, pushing those traits forward through time. So, in natural selection, what is considered fit actually depends on the environment and its demands. Artificial selection is a bit different. This is when specific traits are deliberately selected for or against by humans. You may not have been aware of the term artificial selection, but you are in fact quite familiar with the concept already. Modern dog breeds have all been selected for by humans, as have most food crops that you buy at the grocery store. Again, the main difference is that natural selection is a natural process, while artificial selection is a forced selection by humans. Because of the selective process of artificial selection, it's often called selective breeding. This type of breeding has been used by humans in both plants and animals for thousands of years. The modern sweet corn you eat today is quite different from its ancestor, a plant called teosinte. Both plants are grains, but teosinte looks much more like the grass family that it belongs to, unlike our modern corn that has large, juicy kernels. Wild mustard has also been extensively selected and bred for certain traits. Broccoli, cauliflower, kale, and cabbage are all related to the wild mustard plant. For example, we get broccoli from flower suppression of the wild mustard and kale from its leaf enlargement. What this means is that wild mustard plants with larger leaves were selected for and eventually developed into a plant that now has very large, tasty leaves. Animals have also been selected for in many domestic realms. A Great Dane looks nothing like a Chihuahua, right? And this is because in both dog breeds, the specific traits that led to their differences were selected for by humans, and animals that had these traits were bred so that the traits would continue down family lineages. The cows, pigs, and chickens that are eaten in the U.S. also have traits that are selectively bred. Larger animals that grow quickly and produce more meat are desirable because they are more cost efficient for farmers. There is no better way to create your perfect organism than through artificial selection. With selective breeding, you can breed plants that grow faster and larger and are more resistant to parasites and pests. You could breed horses that run faster, sheep that grow thicker wool, and cows that produce more meat. However, in selecting this way, you're playing a risky game. Selective breeding certainly keeps the traits you want, but it also reduces the size of the gene pool for those organisms. This brings forth mutations that would normally be suppressed within the population. After some time, the species that is produced through artificial breeding has a much lower genetic diversity than its wild ancestors. This means individuals are more susceptible to disease, and the species as a whole may not be able to adapt to changes in the environment. For example, let's look at purebred dogs, which are well known for their breed-specific health problems. The artificial selection process used for dog lineages is called inbreeding, which is the mating of organisms that are closely related. The inbreeding process creates dogs that look alike within a breed, such as Dalmatians that look like other Dalmatians, or Labrador Retrievers that look like other Labs. However, breeding close relatives also severely limits the genetic variation within the breed, so the mutations within that lineage become more common. Dalmatians are commonly deaf, and hip dysplasia is quite common with Labs. Artificial selection is a process in which humans deliberately select for or against certain traits in other organisms. This process is known as selective breeding because of the selection of traits through breeding. Artificial selection has been used by humans for thousands of years. We have created crops that are much different from their ancestors, as well as animal breeds that are each unique and specific to their traits. Artificial selection is certainly an effective method of breeding for desired traits, such as larger, faster growing crops than farm animals, but it can also create problems. Genetic diversity is greatly decreased through the inbreeding process, which is the mating of organisms that are closely related. Reducing genetic diversity means that mutations that would normally be selected against in nature may in fact be inadvertently selected for through artificial selection. This is easily seen in purebred dogs, which quite often have breed-specific health issues.